Well, it's good to be here with you, Lauren. Here in your new home here in Arizona.
Yeah, nice to have you.
You guys just had this place built. How long ago did you guys move into this new house?
We moved in here in June, and then we just got everything redecorated this past week.
And so did you do it all yourself, or did Arie help you?
Arie helped quite a bit, actually. He has an eye for design, being in real estate.
Yeah, people always say that to me, because my house, I designed it myself too, and people are always like, oh, did you have a designer come in? I was like, no, I look at houses all day, as does Arie, so you kind of get a feel for what you want to put in the house.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are studying that stuff.
Yeah. Go to the parade of homes, the model homes, all that fun stuff. So, well, me and you met a couple months ago in Panama. That was a lot of fun. A group of like 40 of us went down to Red Frog Beach in Bocas del Toro. And I was super impressed with you. I got to be honest, because I didn't know what to expect going in. I was just a friend of the guy that threw the trip. It was it's a company called Adventure Hunt. They do these big events, and the winners all go to Panama. And then you, me, Mikkel, a couple other people, just came down for the event. And you don't know what to expect from somebody, kind of see you on TV and you seem sweet and everything. But I walked away from there and I was like, Arie definitely made the right choice. And she really is like a total sweetheart. But was that weird or difficult having people that were there? Because a lot of the people that came were fans of yours. And you're just this girl that's just trying to have a good time. Is that an awkward situation to be in those times?
To be honest, I think that in most of those situations, or even just when I'm out and about, I don't really realize that people know who I am. So I'm kind of oblivious to everything going on. I didn't know if they were there because of me or if they were there because it's a fun trip. So it was kind of interesting finding out that they did come because of me. But they're very good at hiding it most of the time. So it makes it a little less awkward. Yeah,
it's like one of those, it's just a weird dynamic. I mean, a year ago, you're just this girl living in Dallas doing your thing, and all of a sudden you have fans, right? Is that a difficult thing to manage, or is it kind of funny, or how does that affect you on a daily basis?
It honestly is such a strange concept to me, just because I don't feel like I really did anything different. I just went on the show and now everybody knows who I am. But I went to dinner last night with Arie, and this girl, I was checking in at the hostess stand, and she's like, oh my god, you're Lauren. I'm like, hey. And she's like, I'm so sorry, I don't want to be weird. And I'm like, you're not being weird, it's fine, don't worry about it. But I think people feel a little more awkward than I do at this point, just because I'm so used to being around that now.
Well, and a funny funny part of it is they feel like they know you because they've kind of been watching you, where you don't know anything about them, right? So they'll be more comfortable. Have you had any uncomfortable encounters or anything because people feel so comfortable coming up to you or whatever?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of a welcoming person and I like to give people hugs. So the one thing I did notice is people run up to me and just give me a hug out of nowhere. They're like, hi, Lauren, what's up? They act like they're my best friend, and that's totally fine because I'll act like they're my best friend too. But it's just interesting that people just, feel comfortable enough to do that.
Yeah, no, you almost have to be on watch a little bit or whatever else. Well, let's back up your story a little bit. Obviously, everybody knows you from season 22 of The Bachelor. Before you went on The Bachelor, though, you grew up in Virginia Beach. Your dad was military, so you moved around quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
And so what was Lauren like as a child? Give us a little bit of insight into what you were like as a kid.
Ooh, yeah, me as a child. I was a little bit, I was very shy as a child. So it was hard for me to open up to people I didn't know, especially in middle school. I think around the end of high school towards college, I started being more outgoing around people I don't know. But I was always very bubbly and happy around people I did know. So it was definitely putting me outside of my comfort zone, going on The Bachelor, where I knew all eyes were on me. And
yeah, for a shy girl, that's a lot of people to be in front of there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was definitely thinking about that when the cameras were in my face. So I clammed up a little bit, and I think people saw that.
Well, it's funny though, because on a camera, you can make people look about any way you want. That's one thing I've discovered. I did a TV show forever ago, and you can make people seem more shy or more outgoing because you have so much footage.
Right.
But I always try to remember they're trying to make a narrative, right? They're trying to put together a storyline. Well, how did you decide to actually go on the show?
To be honest, I didn't want to go on the show in the beginning. All of my friends were either engaged, married, in a serious relationship. So none of them were able to try out themselves. They're like, Lauren, you're the only single one. You have to go. And I was living in Dallas at the time. They're like, there's a casting in Dallas. It's this weekend, this time, this location. Just go tell us what it's like. And I was like, ugh, fine, guys, whatever. So I went, and there were literally only like 20 people in there.
Wow.
I was expecting there to be a line around the building because that's what I saw on YouTube.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so it was super simple. I went in there and I just kept making it to the next round. And when they called me and they're like, hey, we really want you to come on the show, let us know what your decision is. I didn't feel like I could turn it down at that point.
Yeah, well, it's a great opportunity for sure, regardless of how it turns out. Did you almost have a moment where you decided not to do it? Were you like was there any guys around that you were kind of like, I'm just going to end up blowing it with this guy, or were you completely single at the time?
No, I mean, the year that I went on The Bachelor, I was just completely single that whole time. So there wasn't really there wasn't really anyone else in the picture at the time, but
that makes it a lot easier, I guess,
yeah,
right?
That made that part easier. But to be honest, they made me wait to find out who The Bachelor was until GMA aired. And that's when they announced it. And then they were texting me like, what do you think? And I was like, oh my gosh, I met him this summer.
Oh, you'd already actually met Arie?
Yeah.
Where at?
I met him at my first IndyCar race I'd ever been to.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you guys actually talk and have a conversation?
For like 5 minutes. Yeah. He was just there working on his car. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're from The Bachelor. So I fangirled over him. Yeah, so we took a picture. He told me he liked my shorts and that I should stay and watch the race. I didn't stay and watch the race. And then we were both on the show together a few months later.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So when you actually sign up and you get committed to The Bachelor, you still don't know at that point who it's going to be, the contestant?
Well, I myself didn't commit to going on the show until I knew who The Bachelor was. I think that they kind of they cast all the girls before they even know who The Bachelor is going to be, I think. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, how did your parents react? Because you have a tight relationship with your mom and dad. How did they react when you told them you were going to go on the show?
Well, my dad asked my mom to talk me out of it. But yeah, I think they were a little bit nervous just because they watch TV and they know that people can come across a certain way and maybe it's not an accurate portrayal of who they are. So they were afraid for me in that way, but it didn't turn out too bad.
No, I think it turned out okay.
Yeah.
It is funny, though, because like the news called me for a story a couple months ago, and I was like, I'm not going on. No, you can't interview me because I seen how you make people look. You make them look stupid. And the guy's like, no, I promise we'll make you look good. I'm like, no.
Don't trust them.
Well, so you, when you first got there, how do you do, because everyone does their first impressions, you know, I think Becca pulled up in a Mustang or whatever. I've seen a couple of them, and you see some weird things. I think one girl wanted him to smell her armpits or something,
gosh,
which is really a bad choice. But how did you decide what you were going to do to make a good first impression?
Okay, so going into the whole Bachelor experience, I had my entrance planned out. So I brought a huge Nicki Minaj butt, and I was going to wear it underneath my dress. And I was going to walk up to him and be like, you're a race car driver, right? And I was going to turn around and be like, you think you could fit this in your passenger seat? Yeah. So needless to say, the producers didn't like that as much as me bringing the picture where I'd met him before, because I think it fit their storyline a little better. But
so you were literally going to just put a big fake butt on, and they told you no, you couldn't do that.
They were like, you're the only one that's met him before, you have to bring the picture.
Yeah, I think that ended up being
but then they didn't even show it.
A better choice in the long run. Well, it's funny, I've seen pictures of you showing him the picture, like those are online and everything. Just obviously I watched some of the episode. I'm friends with Mikhail Cooper, that's how kind of we all ended up in Panama together, who was on the show with you. But it is funny because you're there with all these girls competing for one guy. So how do you guys decide? I mean, are you really friendly? Are you like competitive friendly? Or are you some of the girls you just totally dislike and you have to fake it?
I mean, that first night was very intimidating because you walk into this room and there's just gorgeous women all over the place. And they're all decked out, their hair and makeup's done, they've got beautiful dresses on. So everyone's kind of sizing each other up and being like, do I have to worry about her? I don't know. So
you're seeing what your threats are. Sizing up the competition.
Yeah, but obviously you're still nice to each other. You're in this really uncomfortable situation and they're the only other people that are there for you to lean on. So you get close in that way.
Oh, that makes sense. So as the show kind of progressed, because you became really good friends with several of the girls on the show, how did that dynamic work out? Are you guys spending so much time together when you're not with Arie, and you're just getting to know each other, or how did the friendships kind of develop over time?
I think what a lot of people don't understand when they watch the show is that you spend so much time in the house with these girls that you really develop a strong relationship with the girls first before you even get to know the guy. So it's hard to kind of transition to having a relationship with this guy when you're still living with your best friends, basically, who are also dating the guy. But it's a really interesting scenario where you don't want them to win, but you also want the best for them. You want them to be happy. So it's kind of a balance between like managing that relationship and the one with the guy.
Yeah. When you first walked in, and be honest, who was like, okay, that's my biggest threat? Did you have somebody that you... Mikkel?
Yeah. I watched her and I was like I was looking around the room. I was like, it's okay. But then I saw Mikkel and I was like, ooh, I don't like her. I was like, that girl.
Plus, she's from Provo, where girls are used to competing for like 20 girls for every guy. They're going after it all the time.
Yeah, probably.
That's pretty funny.
It helps her a little.
Oh, yeah. No, she's great. It's funny. I actually called her to get some insight on you before the interview as well. Some more insight. She gave me some good juice. So, so as it's developing over time and you're seeing the girls get kicked off the show, was there ever a time when you were like really nervous where you didn't know if you were going to get a rose?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't the first week, it was the second week, because I didn't get a date at all that week. I think there were 1 or 2 group dates, and then there was 1 group date and 2 one-on-ones, and I didn't get any at all. So I was just like, oh, he doesn't like me. That's why I didn't get one. And so I like spent all this time writing a letter in my diary and like reflecting on what I did. Just to like...
That's actually kind of adorable.
You guys would be surprised. A lot of us do that there because like you don't have TV, you don't have books. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just did a lot of reflecting over that week, and then I sat down with him and I read the letter to him. And I think that may have like let him in a little bit more, and it made him want to keep me.
Well, I think one thing that he did really well was you could tell he sincerely was on the show to meet somebody to marry. And I don't know if that's always the case necessarily, but he really was. And I think that's even the whole drama at the end. Like, I think he was just trying to get it right. And when you put yourself in that position, it's a very interesting dynamic. But at the end of the day, because his goal was what it was, I think that's the reason why you guys you have your wedding date set, and it's turned out really, really awesome for you guys. Yeah.
I think that, like, a lot of people were angry at the ending because it didn't look very great on TV, at least. I mean, it wasn't ideal. But he did go into it with a genuine heart, and I think both of us did. So when you have good intentions, you really want to end up married at the end of it. You have to do what your heart's telling you. You can't just make everyone else around you happy.
Yeah, and I think even on the send-off, you're kind of watching it and you're like, oh man, these two weren't done yet, when you were in Peru, because there was so much emotion still together with that. Well, it's like, I know personally, I called off an engagement one time 10 years ago, and here's what I always say. Try to get it right, not be right. Like, I think whether it's an argument or with dating or whatever else, like at the end of the day, whatever path leads you to the right person, I don't think there's any harm in trying to figure that out. And if your gut's telling you one thing and then you go with something else, obviously, like you said, it doesn't always look good on TV, but I think in the end it worked out really great. And so you guys have your wedding planned, is it in January? And January 12th. Where are you guys getting married at?
We're getting married in Maui at Haiku Mill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can't wait. It's like a historic sugar mill, and the jungle like overtook it. So there's just vines and flowers everywhere. It's gorgeous. That's
what every girl dreams of since she's like 4 years old.
Yeah, basically. I did.
That's awesome. Did you invite some of your friends from the show?
Yeah. Mikkel is actually one of my bridesmaids.
Okay.
And then, there's quite a few other girls that are invited too.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think it's important to understand that you truly do become friends, like best friends with these girls. I watched you and Mikkel interact for a week, and you really are like BFFs now, and it's just funny. It's like, I think people think, oh, they're just putting on a show, or they're just trying to like look good to the audience or whatever. But like you said, you're in this house, and those are the people you're relying upon, and you meet people and you're, oh, I like this human, and you become good friends.
Yeah, to be honest, like, obviously I ended up with Arie, but I can't imagine my life without Mikkel, too, which is really cute, I think.
Well, there's lessons in this, too, for even the girls that didn't win the show. Put yourself out there. Go do things that maybe make you uncomfortable. Good rewards will come from them, right? Like, you don't necessarily win. All the girls, going in, all but one girl is going to be sent home. But great things come out of life in general when you just are willing to put yourself out there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, well, so you're getting married in Hawaii, and do you guys have a honeymoon planned? Do you have a location picked out?
Kind of. We're just going to hop around the islands in Hawaii.
Oh.
Like, we don't really want to do any more flying than that.
Yeah, that's pretty good to get a little bit of a taste of all of it. Well, you flew a lot for this show. I mean, you guys went to Paris, you went to Italy, you went to Peru.
Yeah.
Which was your favorite of those places?
I think Italy was definitely my favorite. Just because my date, I mean, when you're on the show, you're kind of secluded to where you guys are staying unless you're on a date. So I didn't get to explore Paris too much. I didn't get to explore Italy too much. But my date was really cool in Italy. We rode bikes around the wall of Lucca. And then after that, we like climbed up this massive tower and looked over the whole city. And then they set up this gorgeous place for us to eat dinner. I like could not stop giggling. I had the weirdest reaction to it. It just was like magnificent and beautiful. So,
you're like, it's not supposed to ever be this good.
Yeah, I was like, this is magical. This is so cool.
That's awesome. So they don't really let you go out and see the cities at all much? I guess
Not really.
because you have to stay away from all media. You're staying away from everything, right?
Yeah, you guys would be surprised. People are following, like they know who the producers are. People recognize them. And if there's like a huge group of girls with them, they're like, all right, these are the Bachelor girls. So they'll be taking pictures all over the world of us.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I interviewed Mikhail for the podcast, and she mentioned when she went home, she had, some family issues, and she saw the news, and that really messed her up because she like all of a sudden was like, whoa, people like are saying bad things about me. People like me. People hate me. Like it was just so I could see the value in getting outside of that and just being in the moment of where you are.
Right.
Do you ever miss that now? I mean, because we're we live in a day and age where cell phones and distractions are everywhere. Was that part of the gem or part of the beauty of the show to be able to fall in love with somebody is not having all those distractions? Yeah,
definitely. I actually, when I came home, I wanted to detox from my phone completely. I was like, I don't need this. Why do I even have it with me? I mean, obviously you need it for work, but other than that, you don't really need it for Instagram and all of that. So I kind of thought about that for a second. I was like, do I really want to do this again? I ended up doing it, but yeah, it really is interesting to not have your phone and be totally focused on what's going around you and like the people that are with you. And it helps you develop a much stronger relationship much quicker. Yeah,
I can imagine. So was there something that you like wasn't on the show that was really funny or something you wish they'd have shown that maybe the audience would have, like a funny story that you could share?
There's so many funny things that they left out. I don't think they really highlighted the girls' relationships much on there, but all of us were very close in the house. And it didn't look like that from watching it. I was really disappointed.
Yeah, there was the one girl that came off pretty crazy. I can't remember her name. Were you friends with her even?
I tried. I tried really hard.
That's fair enough.
But yeah, unfortunately not. But I mean, Mikkel and I were absolutely ridiculous trying to entertain ourselves. Like one day, I know we mixed together eggs, honey, coconut oil, avocados, and like put them on our head and had Ziploc bags over our heads. We like made these masks and we were floating around on like a unicorn and flamingo in the pool feeding each other Brussels sprouts. It was like the dumbest thing ever. But yeah, you had to do anything.
You know what? You lock someone up long enough, anything can come out of that, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty fun though. Well, and I won't go into much of the finale other than to say you guys, once Arie, I think he texted you or he liked one of your photos on New Year's or something, right? Like after the whole thing went down.
A few things, yeah.
When did you kind of know, well, hey, let's back up a little bit. When did you know, like, I could actually see myself marrying this guy, being with Arie during the show? When did you know that?
I don't think I was really willing to let myself go there for a while, but I did see like little glimpses of him that made me fall for him more and more. Mm-hmm. So like one day we were doing a rose ceremony and he got really nervous and he's like, 1 second. And he turned around and walked into the wall. And I was like, oh, I love him. It's really nice to see the Bachelor be human because he's like idolized by everybody and you think he's like this perfect person, but he's just a normal person like anyone else. So anytime I saw that, I was like, okay, I like him. That's really cool.
I actually met Arie 6-7 years ago. I did a date auction in Provo. He had just been on, I think it was the Bachelorette or whatever. And so he went all the way to the finale. Similar as you, I guess, which is kind of a cool thing that you guys have in common, right? Yeah. Originally, you both were the two final. And anyway, we raised a bunch of money for the kids and everything. And so he came, and it was a real big to-do. So I've known him, kind of been watching from a distance for years. So when he got announced as the Bachelor again, it was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that'll be fun to watch because I actually have met this guy and I know him a little bit.
Did you think that he was the same person on TV as how you knew him?
Yeah, I think they did a decent job of portraying. I don't think they showed the fun side of Arie enough. I think he's a lot more entertaining than they showed a lot of times. I mean, for whatever reason, they kind of made it seem a little bit like he wasn't always the most outgoing or whatever. But I think, as from what I saw and what I've experienced, he absolutely is kind of one of the funnest guys to be around. So it was just interesting to me to get that. Where I think the focus was on the dates and the girls, and so they're trying to make it more dramatic than it actually probably was. I think it was a lot more fun than dramatic, but I guess for TV, you're doing what you can to... Yeah. You don't get any say in how they edit anything, right? I mean, you're full on like,
not here's my... I mean, you can kick and scream and complain as much as you want, and they're not going to change it.
Well, and so once the whole thing... And by the way, if you want to know the whole story of like with Becca in the finale, and then how Arie got a hold of you again. Jimmy Kimmel actually interviewed you guys the night you got engaged, and it's a great interview. I've watched it, and if you want more of that story, just go watch that interview on YouTube. It's pretty good. But with you guys, so you got engaged that night. You went on Jimmy Kimmel, and you guys kind of jumped right into everything. You guys didn't slow down at all.
No, we haven't slowed down till like last week. So it's been a crazy year. We've been all over the place.
And was it a hard decision for you to move here to Arizona, or was that pretty simple? I mean,
no, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I've moved around my whole life, so it's not really hard for me to adapt to anything. And his whole family is here. I was already living away from my family in Dallas, so I was ready for a change. Yeah,
no, that works out. Well, when you first met his family, I think it was in Peru, right? Mm-hmm. Was that weird meeting somebody's family on TV, like for the first time? Because it's already awkward, right, when you're meeting a family. Mm-hmm. And so was that experience, how was that different than meeting a normal family, I guess?
Well, I remember I was really, really excited to meet them just because Arie already meant so much to me at that point. And I'd heard a lot about them from him, so I knew I was going to get along with them already. But yeah, it definitely adds a little bit more pressure when there's cameras around you and you're meeting your hopefully future in-laws.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and he met your family on TV as well. Mm-hmm. Did you get a chance for him to actually meet your family first, or is it really their role in film? That's the first impression right there.
Yeah, that was it.
And your parents, were they cool because obviously it got a little bit confused at the end and everything. Was your dad and mom, everybody still super excited for you, or how did they react to him coming back to you at the end?
Well, my dad is very protective. My mom is too, but my dad says more about it. So he was just like, I don't know, Lauren, are you sure he's not going to change his mind again? And I'm like, yes, Dad, he's not going to change his mind. So as soon as we had a talk with him in person, he was fine, and they've been excited for us ever since.
Well, I think it's any father's reaction is going to be somewhat similar to that, right?
Yeah.
Well, a funny part about your story, speaking of Peru, is so you guys obviously had your date on the show there, but you also... Tell us a little bit, you kind of became the godparents of a child down in Peru, right?
Yeah, so obviously we were in Peru together. We spent a lot of time there on the show. So we had this connection to Peru. And then there is a nonprofit that's based out of Arizona, actually, or one of their wings is based out of here. And they reached out to us and they were like, hey, let's go grab lunch. We talked to them and we decided that we wanted to basically adopt or sponsor a godchild from Peru. So her name's Crystal. She's 3 years old. We're writing letters to her, and we're hoping to go visit her next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you get to go back down. Are you going to go back to Machu Picchu, or which part of Peru?
Yeah, we definitely want to go back to Machu Picchu too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went this summer. In fact, right before Panama, while I was down there, I jumped over to Machu Picchu, and anybody that hasn't been there, should probably put it on your list. There's a reason that it's like known as that place. It really did have like a sacredness to it, I thought.
Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, you did get the chance to do a lot of traveling since the show. Give us an idea what life after The Bachelor is like. Like you guys have your big moment. Now you're engaged. You've been on Jimmy Kimmel. Everybody knows who you are. Mm-hmm. Walk us through the next couple of weeks, months. I think people are curious about that. Like how did life happen after that? Like what becomes your life?
Oh my gosh. It was so hectic. And it was kind of crazy because I was thrown right into the racing community at the same time. So it's like, everybody recognizes us basically wherever we go, but we're also at the racetracks where Arie and his family are they're kind of a big deal there. His dad won IndyCar or the Indy 500 twice. So everyone knows who their family is already. So it's like magnified when you're at the racetrack. So that was a hard adjustment for me just because I'm a very private person normally, and I'm not one to just be the center of attention all the time. So to be the center of attention all the time is stressful. So yeah, it's definitely an adjustment, and we've had a lot of opportunities to kind of travel for show related things or doing appearances as well. So it's fun.
Where's been your favorite place that you've traveled to?
Honestly, I think Amsterdam and Den Bosch. We just went and saw Arie's family's hometown recently.
Very
I think that
cool.
was one of my favorite places.
Yeah, what a cool experience.
Yeah.
I mean, so you kind of had this, you kind of had fame thrown upon you a little bit, you could say. And so it was, you probably had people that you always wanted to meet or whatever, celebrities. Was there anyone in particular, like once you met them, you were just kind of like fangirl a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So at the Indy 500, I did have the opportunity to meet Chris Hemsworth, or Thor, as most of you guys would probably know him. And I've never considered myself someone who would get starstruck, but I definitely did around him. I was so awkward. I went up to him and I was like shaking. I was like, "Can I take a picture? I'm so sorry." He was like, I felt bad. I didn't want to bother him. But
Yeah. Did he watch the show?
he didn't really talk much.
Okay. Probably made it easier in some ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, anyways, I would normally like put my arm around him or like something like that, but no, I was probably 2 feet away like this, so stiff.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
well, it's funny. I think it's one of the things that makes The Bachelor so interesting to people, because I think everybody is just living their lives. It's normal. And then like fame gets kind of thrown upon people. Same with like American Idol, some of these things, right? Like everywhere you go, all of a sudden people know who you are and they want pictures. They want to talk to you. They want to tell people they met you or whatever. What's been the hardest adjustment in general from a year ago to today where now you have that celebrity?
I think for me, it was just getting used to people knowing who I am wherever I go.
Do you have to like watch yourself, what you're doing and stuff with your hands? Just like, scratch your back or something, but.
I mean, I just try not to care what people think.
That's probably best advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, and something fun that we talked about quite a bit in Panama is you have a swimwear line that you're launched. Have you launched it now?
I haven't launched it yet.
Okay, just getting it all set up. Tell us a little bit about that and where you're going with that.
So I don't want to give too much away yet, but I'm planning on launching it early next year. And so it's going to be a swimwear line that I've been designing basically since I was in middle school. So I've been sketching them. I kind of grew up at the beach in Virginia Beach, so I would sit out there and sketch bikinis by the ocean.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of where this whole thing began, but I'm really excited. It's something I wanted to do forever. So I'm going to launch that and then maybe a clothing boutique after that. Who knows?
Okay. Is that kind of the next step for you then professionally? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Do you have a name for it yet?
I haven't.
Is that still a secret?
It's still in the works. I don't want to say exactly what it is yet because I'm not positive.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure once that's officially launched, we'll link the episode to it and everything else. But no, that'll be fun. So you usually just sit out on the beach and just see ideas for bikinis and then just sketch up your own models and everything?
Yeah. I mean, I've followed a bunch of people on Instagram that design swimwear, and I've always been fascinated by Victoria's Secret models and like all of that world. So I got kind of inspiration from that, but I also felt at peace at the ocean. So I would go out there just to kind of relax and clear my mind, and I brought my sketch pad. So
that's cool.
Just go crazy.
I love it. Well, do you ever think about, I mean, obviously your life has gone 100 miles an hour this last year. Do you ever think about if you'd said no and didn't? Like, what do you think you'd be doing today if you didn't ever go on the show?
I'd probably still be working at Vonage selling, technology equipment. Hopefully moved up by now, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was having a year where I was just saying yes to everything because I went through a really hard breakup before that. So who knows where I could be, but I'm definitely happy that I'm here now. Yeah,
well, I think it's just such a good lesson. Again, like that whole idea of say yes to everything, right? I think at the end of our lives, we very rarely regret things we said yes to. Yeah. It's the things that you didn't do, the things you didn't try, the risks you didn't take. And so good for you. It's fun to follow your guys' path and see where it's going and everything.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the time here. We'll link this episode to your bikini line. And thank you so much. This was fun. It was fun watching it. It's actually fun for me after meeting you, going back and watching a bunch of the clips, because I was watching more for Mikkel at the time, just because I knew her. But then after having known you, it was just really fun to see the episode, highlights again.
Yeah. Well,
So,
thanks for having me.
You're
This was
awesome.
fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.